Food. We all eat it, and currently I'm eating my competitors' honeyed apples because they are just so much better than what I'm selling. And if you're a little confused in a recap of the last episode, pretty much I sell bread down there. The bread business isn't going very well because my competitor sells much better food. And last time we started making a whole bunch of farms to start making better food than he's making, specifically stuffed pumpkins. And while I've made a lot of these farms, so far none of it's really completely automatic, and it's definitely not hooked up to some stuffed pumpkin production facility. Well, I say facility, but with how this build's going so far, it's really just going to be more of a medieval hut. But before we can even get to that, I need all of these ingredients to actually be automated, and these ones kind of are, but still not really, and two of the ingredients for stuffed pumpkins I literally haven't even made farms for, but that's a lot harder to do than finishing these farms, so let's go ahead and do that first. It's going to be so easy, in fact, that I'm pretty sure it's literally 3 blocks, just enough that it does that automatically every 5 minutes, and I'm pretty sure that is literally all I have to do. But aside from that, I have actually made a lot of progress on this build in between episodes. The last time you guys saw it, none of this was here. It was literally just the piston and the minecart, and pretty much all this is storage. It takes these storage outputs from the minecart contraption. It does extend above the ground, well, kind of into the ground really, and that's where all of these are coming from, and it dumps all of the items down into these vaults, and they're all filtered. So we have a vault for potatoes, we have a vault for sweet berries, onions, mushrooms, and tomatoes, and then for things like potatoes, we have a little trash thing here to get rid of poisonous potatoes. And that's actually about it, but it's a very effective system because these are item vaults and they can hold a whole lot of items. Specifically like 30,000, which is absolutely insane and definitely enough that I can automate this and leave it alone, and these will pretty much never fill up. I mean, they will eventually, but if I have 30,000 of each, I don't really mind that it's not collecting them anymore. So let's go ahead and get the couple of blocks in that'll make this fully automatic. Turns out it's actually 4 blocks and not 3. It's a couple of redstone and then 2 timers. And also, I really can't count, can I? That's 6, not a 4. Anyway, it's a timer that just activates the piston every now and then, specifically every 4 minutes, which seems to be a pretty good interval for how often to harvest this stuff. It's about halfway through the timer right now, and you can see there's some stuff to be harvested, specifically the sweet berries, which seem to grow way faster than anything else. The tomatoes have a little bit, everything has a couple fully grown things, so I could probably do with having this go more often, but honestly, this is completely fine. I don't think I'm really losing that much product by not having it go like as often as I could, so I'm just gonna leave it at 4 minutes and call it good, because honestly, if it goes too fast, it'll probably lag or something. I don't know. I mean, it's an entity the entire time, so it probably actually won't, but either way, I've run this thing a little bit, and as you can see by these numbers, it's going pretty well. We have over 1,000 in the 2 effective ones, that being mushrooms and potatoes for some reason, and the lowest one is sweet berries, weirdly enough, at 812, despite the fact that they seem to always be like pretty much fully grown when it harvests. So I have like no idea why these are the least productive one, but they are, so that might be the limiting factor in our stuffed pumpkin production. But regardless, now that we have all of that up and running, it's time to move on to the next step, which is the remaining 2 ingredients that we don't currently have automatically farming, that being pumpkins, of which there is 1 down here for some reason, and rice. And both of those are going to just kind of be underground, hidden away in this room. So I need to hollow out a whole lot of space to be able to fit those farms in. They're going to be pretty compact, but they definitely can't fit in the space I already have. So I'm going to go ahead and dig this wall out a decent bit, and maybe this one, but this one pretty quickly faces the cliff face, so maybe not. But either way, let's go ahead and hollow out some space for the 2 farms. Well, I maybe got a little bit ahead of myself because I did hollow out the space, but I also kind of just made a fully automatic rice farm. It's not hooked up to any storage or anything yet, but the whole design is pretty simple, so I just went ahead and made it. We've got a water wheel down here that is spinning this bearing, which has some harvesters going around as soon as any of this rice is fully grown, which I would really like to happen, but it's probably not going to. It harvests it and puts it into this barrel. We already have 22 of them, but currently there's no output to this, and the output for the rice farm isn't as simple as these ones. All of these farms, the ingredient we need for the stuffed pumpkin is just straight up the output of the farm. We need potatoes and sweet berries, but rice, this farm produces rice panicles, and those aren't actually what we need. We need this stuff, rice. So to get that, we need to hook up a mill to the output of this farm, which will turn those rice panicles into into rice and fiber. The fiber will probably store elsewhere, but the rice can go ahead and be stored along with the rest of these resources. There we go. I suppose this isn't really like along with them in any way. It's kind of on the other side of the room, but I've decided that all of these resources are going to have to go this way at some point over to some like production facility. Well, like I said, probably a medieval hut, not really a facility, but some place where these stuffed pumpkins are actually made. So I'm just having that over there because it's going to go that way eventually anyway. But we have one for the rice and one for the fiber, although I'm pretty sure it's actually called straw, not fiber. But either way, we have 200 of each of those, and these will remain exactly constant forever, which is very nice until I actually start using rice, that is, because you get one of each for every rice panicle that is harvested. So this thing is all good to go. We're only missing one ingredient now, which is, of course, the pumpkins. And luckily, pumpkins present literally zero issues. The only reason I didn't build one in the last episode with the rest of like these farms, I built this little pumpkin patch, but I couldn't make it completely invisible like a harvesting mechanism to get the pumpkins from that patch, so I just didn't do it. Also, I probably need a little bit of a bigger area than this, because while it kind of takes up the same footprint as these crops, it really isn't like nearly as many pumpkins, but that's not an issue at all down here, though. We can just make it as big as we want. I'm probably going to go about the size of the rice farm, because while this rice farm has double the rice that a pumpkin farm can be, because you have to have room for the pumpkins to grow as well as for the stems, this rice farm is already like much bigger than I need, as in it's about twice the size of any of the ones up here. So I'm going to go ahead and just make pretty much this exact same thing, but for pumpkins. We might have a problem. I built it, obviously, and I did exactly what I said I would. It's the same size as the rice farm, just like half the plots are filled because it's pumpkins. It works pretty well. It's generated a good 125 since I built it. The problem is I've actually AFK'd for like a decent bit of time since I built it, and it's kind of slow. Now, like I said earlier, this rice farm is producing more rice than we're going to need, so the thing that the pumpkin farm has to keep up with is the slowest one of these 5, and the slowest one of these is currently looking like the onions. It's switched off sweet berries, which is good because that didn't make any sense that that was the slowest, but it needs to be producing as fast as the onions produce, and I'm not actually sure that it's doing that, because we could watch it for a little bit, and we saw a pumpkin get harvested earlier, but they don't really get harvested all that often. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look at these numbers and let both the onion farm and the pumpkin farm run for an hour, and I'm going to see how much each of them get, and if they get similar amounts, then it's fine, but if this one is significantly less, then we'll have to make it significantly bigger. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll see if this one is underproducing. I think it is, but I'm just not quite sure. Well, I was right. The pumpkins, after a full hour of AFK in here, and this is a little bit after the hour ended, so it's a little bit higher, but they had a difference of 74, just above a stack, or I guess 10 above a stack, and the onions, which is our second slowest thing, had a difference of 199, so that is almost 3 times more efficient, which I was not expecting. I was thinking like 2 times maybe, and I was kind of hoping it would be, you know, less than that, obviously, but this is a little bit of an issue. But it's not just an issue because it's a limiting factor for the farm. That part is realistically fine. At 74 an hour, we're going to be getting about 5 stacks of bowls of stuffed pumpkin per hour, because it's a 1-to-4 ratio of pumpkins to bowls of stuffed pumpkin, so that's fine. The issue is the surplus that the other farms are gonna build up. All of these are going to fill up an insane degree in the time that it's taken the pumpkins to actually produce anything, and that surplus will eventually fill these item vaults, which will eventually fill this little barrel that's harvesting them, and then it will start to dump items on the ground, which we really don't want. That will be super bad for just performance of the game, pretty much, to have items sitting everywhere. So instead of making this pumpkin farm larger to try and keep up with the surplus of the rest of these, because realistically I don't need more, I'm just going to add a little system that will detect when these storage silos are full and start trashing items instead of just dumping them on the ground. So we'll fix the lag problem, and then the rest of it just won't really be an issue. And that system would look something like this. We've got a threshold switch that will detect when the storage silo is completely full, and when that happens, it will turn off, which will activate this little brass funnel, which will just start dropping items out of here 64 at a time, and pretty much as soon as one stack is dropped out, it will no longer be full, and it will reactivate, which will disable this funnel and stop it from trashing anymore. So pretty much whenever it fills up, it'll trash a stack, and then that'll just continue. So no items will ever get dropped on the ground because none of it will ever fill up. So now that we have that little thing in on all of the different item vaults around here, even on these ones, it's just tucked in the back over here, we have all of the ingredients of stuffed pumpkins getting automatically farmed, and it is all completely future-proof, which means it's time to get working on the thing that will bring them all together, which unfortunately is a lot easier said than done. So I've popped over into a creative testing world to kind of illustrate the problem. This is the whole system that will take our ingredients and turn it into stuffed pumpkin. We've got our 7 inputs here for all the different ingredients. We have an auto arm that puts them into this basin where they get mixed above a blaze burner, and that produces the stuffed pumpkins. Those are then placed, and bowls are used to get bowls of stuffed pumpkin, which is the thing you can actually eat, because this thing you can't really do much with. You can just place it and then get the actual edible item from it. So the entire system works pretty well and is very small, but there's 2 major issues with it. The system itself is very easy to build, but there's 2 inputs that we don't yet have. That being bowls and fuel for this blaze burner. Now bowls, to be fair, I could make some bowl recycling system where I bring back the bowls after I actually eat the thing, because if you eat a stuffed pumpkin, you get a bowl from that. At least I would if I was in survival mode and could actually eat them properly. So I could put all those bowls back into the system, but honestly, that's not going to happen. I'm just going to be throwing these things on the ground wherever I happen to be, and hopefully throwing them into fire so they don't cause too much lag, but I'm definitely not going to be recycling these things. Which pretty much just means I need to make a farm for the bowls, which really isn't that bad. It'll be a tree farm with some processors stuck on the end of it, and it'll be overall pretty easy. It'll be a project, but not a very hard one, and luckily, that tree farm can also provide fuel for our blaze burner, because anything you can use to fuel a furnace will be used to fuel this blaze burner to this level. So that will all kind of work out. We just need to build a tree farm. So that's going to be the next project. And I suppose we're just going to go ahead and do that now because, well, it's not the most complicated farm in the world. This is literally the entire design. There's pretty much nothing hidden underneath it. It's very simple. And the reason it's so simple compared to previous tree farms I've made is that this is a non-bone meal farm, so it just kind of grows the trees naturally. And this is without the tick speed boosted at all. So this is how fast it will go. It will just generate a ridiculous amount of oak, which will be plenty for the 2 things that need wood over there. And I'll have to add some processors onto it and some logic to decide how much goes into bowls, how much goes into fueling the blaze burner, but overall it should be pretty easy to make, so let's go ahead and do it. Not too bad at all. I made it a little bit faster than my original design just because that one was not quite actually keeping up with the trees that are growing, and this one is still kind of ramping up. It has to get a couple more saplings to fill in those gaps. It looks like we've got a couple more over there, but it's pretty much at maximum speed, and you can see we get a tree pretty often. And as a side effect to this being fast, it's also kind of a death trap. I've died in this once so far, but I can see it happening again because the thing is, these saws do like 4 hearts of damage, and I'm in like almost full netherite, and they still do 4 hearts of damage. So if I fall in there, it's very, very difficult to get out alive. But you know, the sacrifices need to be made to have a good tree farm, and this thing should be generating quite a large amount of logs, and that did not work as expected. I'm trying to get down onto this little middle dirt block here, which is not at all a precarious perch, so I can access this barrel. And you can see we already have like 3 stacks of oak, and currently this barrel is all of the storage, so I need to actually hook up that storage interface that's very hard to keep track of to a proper storage system, but I'm going to leave that for the next episode because that storage system is going to require a whole lot of processors to turn things into bowls and probably sticks to fuel the blaze burner, and also just like a ton of logic to actually decide what goes where, and that's going to be a lot of work, so I'm going to go ahead and end this one here. But before I do, I've got some channel member shoutouts to do, so thank you to Nick, Algaman, Rain 2.0, The 3D Gamers, NG, Gummy Eater 365, Dutch Caffeine, Local Wi-Fi, and Nami for being channel members. If you want to become a channel member, play on this server with me, as well as join the community Discord, there is a link down below, as in a join button, because I'm probably going to forget to put the link in the description because I did in the last episode. But either way, hope you enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed making it, and I will see you guys next time.